All right, welcome to the walkthrough of the Modern Resume Blueprint. So we're going to walk through this teaching guide, but please be aware that if you click onto any of the other tabs, it'll give you actual resume formats that you can actually just copy and paste and put your information in there, right? So they're from different creators, so they give you different best practices. All these resumes are great, right? So you have this available to you, but we're just going to use this to walk through. So first and foremost, we need to understand that your resume is a marketing document. And what I mean by that is that your resume is what is signaling to your future employer that you know how to solve their problems. And how do you know how to solve their problems? You've read through some job descriptions, you've targeted one thing that you really want. Maybe that's implementation manager, maybe that is customer success manager, solutions architect. Doesn't really matter. But the goal is that because you're clear on what you're selling, right? You're saying, I have these skill sets. I bring so much value to this thing that you want, right? And that thing that you want, again, is a job descriptions you've been reading. So you take that and then you now streamline your resume and everything else, right? So if you decide I want to be a solutions architect, then every single thing you're writing as we go forward in this section is all about that, okay? But just have that idea in your head. The resume is a marketing tool, right? The more you're able to market your skill sets, the more likely you will get a buyer, which would be your employer, and will also be more likely that you get to negotiate, right? So that's that. So the marketing tool's job is to get you an interview, which means that you will see that editing is your best friend here. Edit, right? I know that it might be really important to you that back in the day you worked at XYZ, but if those job responsibilities do not actually apply here, then they don't need to be on this resume, right? Okay. So now let's get into it. The first thing on your resume is your first and last name. That should be bold, front and center. Everyone should know this is who we're trying to hire, right? Then after that, we have the first line, which is just like, how do I get in touch with you? Where are you? City and state. Even if you are trying to be a remote worker, you still need to put your city and state. I recommend the closest major city that a recruiter would know. You can always check the bottom of the job description, usually will tell you which cities that they recruit from, right? So just put that. The reason for that is a human is looking at this and you want them to be able to easily identify with you. And maybe even if you are 10 miles outside of that main city, they might read it and be like, this person is not close. You know, you don't want that. So city, state, your phone number, professional email, meaning your first and last name, and then your LinkedIn, and then customize your LinkedIn so it doesn't have a ton of like random numbers at the end, but rather has your specific URL. Okay, so once we have our first and last name, we have this line. Then also in bold, we put the title of the job. Now, every single job description might have a different job title, so you would just go to the job description. If it's calling it the revenue enablement lead, then that's what you're putting here, right? Whatever they say it's called, that's what you're doing. The reason for this is, again, as a human is reading through, you want to catch their eye. You're already putting yourself in the position of that role, which is really, really crucial. Okay, so we have that. So section 2. So right after you put your name, your information, and the title of the job you're applying for, you will have a few bullet points or maybe just a few sentences that summarize. So this is not an objective, right? You're not telling me, oh, I'm applying for this job because I'm looking for a job. Well, yes, that's why we're all here, right? But what you really want to answer is why you, why now? And the formula you can do for this is years of experience in your key field or skills, type of company, industry, and what you've achieved. Now, this again can be found through job descriptions. If you keep reading job descriptions and they keep telling you a range of years, they tell you they really want someone who is good at product adoption, etc., you're pretty much taking it word for word from the job description, right? So then it'll go from something like, I'm highly motivated professional with experience in product adoption and customer success, seeking to leverage my skills in a challenging new role. It's straight to the point, but it doesn't really tell me much. It doesn't tell me why out of all the other people emailing me or applying for the job, I should pick you. So where you would put in is 7+ years of experience driving product adoption and customer success. So right there, the 7+ years of experience, we probably know that's a sweet spot because a ton of different job descriptions keep saying they want someone who has 5+ years or 7+ years. And the reason why we're saying 7+ years is because we want to be in the right target of what they want. Even if you have 10+ experience, 11+ years experience, that's not really the point here. The point here is to signal that you are the type of person they want. You don't want to be super underqualified or super overqualified, right? Once you're in the interview or once you have the job, you can tell them all about your 20, 30-year history, okay? But for now, We're not denying that you have more years. We have that plus there, but we are saying, let me make sure they see me, right? So that's what you have there. You specify, and you can bold. I wouldn't suggest using different colors, but you can just bold, right? Like that. Okay. So you can bold the skill sets, the industry that you're in. You can also bold how many people you've impacted, write your scale, and then how much money you've made people, right? So think about this as, will someone, where I'm applying to, will it be helpful for them if they have someone who has worked with companies ranging from 60 to 10,000 people, right? Meaning that I can work with a range of clients. Will it be helpful if they know that I've been able to bring in $54.7 billion? Yeah. That might be helpful. And then if you don't know like exact revenue figures or things like that, just like think back, and it doesn't have to be precise numbers, but think back to like, oh, how much did that deal cost that I worked on? Or how much did someone say this was, right? Like piece that together to figure that out. Okay, and then now we get to the professional experience side. So what you need is the company name and location, then your job title, month, year, right underneath that. And then a quick summary, 1 to 2 sentences describing the company and your role's primary function. If it's a large company like Google or Amazon, specify your division. So that way you can really talk to whoever's reading your resume and let them understand what your job was and what your impact was. And then it's really, really important not to be vague and actually show the difference that you made, right? I developed and implemented a new onboarding playbook using project charters, reducing new hire ramp up time by 30%, right? So what did you do? You developed and implemented a new onboarding playbook, huge. And the result of that was that it reduced new hire ramp up time by 37%. So for the company, this means that you help people get more productive, earning money for the company 37% times faster. That's really great, right? So I would want to hire you for that. So you want to make sure that you are adding the problem that you were solving, the project that you did, what specific action you took, right? This is you. This is not a time that we talk about our teammates. You. The only time you talk about your teammates is when you talk about how you're a great cross collaborator and how you led that, right? And then what is a quantifiable outcome? In this case, it was the 37% time saved. Okay. And then last but not least, we have our education and certifications. Please omit dates, right? The fact that you have it is all that matters. If for whatever reason the cert needs to be renewed, we'll talk about that later. But on your resume, do not, signal any form of ageism or bias, right? Just have your university here, what type of degree you have, etc. That's all you need. And then if you want to add any skills section, any technical skills, languages, certifications, you can add them down here as well. But this is like if it's maybe something that popped up in the job description or something of that nature, I wouldn't necessarily say like I'm proficient in Microsoft Word, because at this point most people are. And also for the most part, I am a big advocate for, rather than just putting a list of things down here, in your actual bullet, you can say something like developed and implemented a new onboarding playbook using project charts and hosting on Notion, which reduced new hire ramp up time and improved overall team efficiency, right? What this does here is that it shows how you're actually using the tools, right? Rather than you just listing a ton of tools down here, you're saying like, hey, I've used Notion and I've used Notion in this way. I've used Zoom and I've used it in this way. I think that is way more powerful to show rather than to just tell. Okay, so that's that. Just some final thoughts. If you have less than 10 years of experience, 1 page is probably good enough. I always personally send in a PDF just so you know your format is great, but if you accidentally send with a Word, it's not the end of the world, okay? You should always proofread out loud, but when you're saying it, you catch a little bit more errors. Make sure that you always have some form of quantified number in there, how much time you saved, how much money you saved, or how much money you made. And then tailor. Make sure your headline and your summary match the job. And just to re-explain that means that this top part, right, the title of the job exactly matches the job description that you're looking at. And then these years of experience and key field and skills, that should probably be lifted straight from the job description, right? Once you have that, you're in pretty good hands and you will have a resume that actually stands out and is easy to read. If you want other examples, click through these to get that as well. All right, thanks for watching.